Hello and welcome to Quarantine History of Ottertail County. I'm your host, Chris Schulke. So Ottertail County's first permanent settlement dates back to when Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9th, 1865. While this momentous event was taking place, a group of religious pilgrims were leaving Red Wing, Minnesota to continue their journey north and west. They were members of the Church of Jesus Christ and were on a mission to fulfill their leader's vision of seeking a new home in Minnesota. This is their story. Alphaeus Cutler was born on February 28, 1784, in Plainfield, New Hampshire. In 1808, he married Lois Lathrop, and after serving in the War of 1812, the couple moved west to northern Ohio. In 1832, Mormon missionary David Patton stopped at the Cutler's farmstead while on his way to Kirtland, Ohio, home of Latter-day Saints founder Joseph Smith. Now, this was a very difficult time for the Cutlers, as their daughter Lois was thought to be dying of tuberculosis. Desperate, they allowed Patton to pray in Lois's bedroom. At the conclusion of his impassioned prayer, Lois was said to suddenly cry out, "I believe it," and asked for Patton to heal her through the laying on of hands. When this was done, Lois got out of bed, ate, dressed, and declared herself healed. The apparent miracle resulted in the Cutlers' conversion to the new Latter-day Saint faith. They sold the farm and joined Joseph Smith in Kirtland. Well, Alphaeus Cutler, being a charismatic man, rose quickly in the church hierarchy. And when the Saints relocated to Nauvoo, Illinois, he was appointed master mason of the great limestone temple that was to be constructed there. He was also named a high priest and part of the secretive Council of 50. Now, after Joseph Smith was killed in 1844, a leadership vacuum developed within the church. Several potential successors emerged, including Brigham Young and Alphaeus Cutler. When the Saints were forced out of Nauvoo, they made their way to southwestern Iowa. It was there that Cutler and Young split. Brigham Young, of course, continued west, while Cutler and his followers remained in Iowa and established the Church of Jesus Christ. Now, the Cutlers were optimistic. Their farms were doing well. They coexisted peacefully with their neighbors, but this did not last long. Cutler announced one day that through a vision he had, they were to move north to Minnesota and to seek out a swath of land between two lakes. But before they could leave, Alphaeus Cutler died on June 10, 1864. His death sent his followers into turmoil as they struggled to make decisions, including whether or not to fulfill his prophecy of moving to Minnesota. They were split. But Sylvester Whiting provided insight into how a final decision was made. Father Fisher told us in The Gift of Tongues that the time would soon come that we would live on wheels and to take care of our wagon covers, for we would need them, and also we would go to a place of many waters. Consequently, in September 1864, a scouting party, including 4 families and 10 children, left their Iowa home. 11-year-old Emma Whiting, the oldest child in the group, recalled, "Traveling in covered wagons is all right when the weather is good and you have plenty to eat. But when the weather is bad and you have not enough to eat, it isn't so nice." The onset of winter forced the group to stay in Red Wing, Minnesota for several months. They started again in April, following an ox cart trail to Crow Wing. There they were advised to make for the old trading post site at Otter Tail City. The Cutlerites camped at Otter Tail and held a prayer meeting on which direction to take next. Well, the next day, Isaac, Francis Lewis, and Sylvester Whiting hiked south until they came to the outlet of what is now called West Battle Lake. To their amazement, the outlet teemed with fish, and much to the annoyance of Sylvester, Isaac and Francis Lewis stopped to fish before making their way around to the north shore, where a broad pasture appeared to offer a likely place for a settlement. When the whole group was taken to this spot, everyone was satisfied except for Sylvester. He said that he had a dream the night before that he felt contained a message. Sylvester said, "I saw in my dream an old woman, and she came to where we were and seemed to be very angry with us. She had a broom in her hands, and with her broom she swept or drove us all off." Concerned with the dream's meaning, Sylvester and several others decided to explore the south shore of West Battle Lake. Here they crossed a narrow strip of land and saw beyond it Clitheroe Lake. They walked along the shore, stopping in a grove of trees for prayer before continuing on to a broad plateau overlooking the lake shore. Sylvester later said, "When I first stepped on that spot of ground, the burden that had been on my mind left me instantly, and I felt a witness that this was the chosen place of the Lord for us to settle." The land they came upon and would later file 4 homestead claims was for 640 acres, a strip of land about a quarter-mile wide and 4 miles long, lying between the north shore of Clitheroe Lake and the south shore of West Battle Lake. Thus was born Clitheroe. Join me next week as we continue our exploration of the history of Clitheroe, Otter Tail County's first permanent settlement, right here on Quarantine History of Otter Tail County.